take the session in the morning. I had a very long travel yesterday because of rains, so I was delayed a bit. It's okay if you can't switch on your camera, that's perfectly okay. I just wanted to cover the newspaper for today, so that we can then talk about other things tomorrow morning, and then maybe cover up the Fridays and then the gist of Fridays and Saturdays newspaper tomorrow. So this is why I held the session. I don't want to have a backlog of stuff, and please, those of you who have to renew their subscription, don't do it today, do it tomorrow, so that it's done with first cycle. That's something which I target. So if it's that ways, then it's much easier to manage it. Now, so the intention of the day is that instead of doing meditation and journaling, which I suppose you should have done in the morning, I'll just focus on current affairs, and I will show you my screen. So what I'll be covering is the Indian Express of today, and so I'll be covering the Indian Express for today, and the articles that I'll be covering, I'll be simultaneously showing it to you. So that's much more easier for you to comprehend the article. Now, the first article that we will be covering is that on this thing, don't ask JEE rank may lead to caste bias, IIT Bombay tells its students. Now, again, this is something that you can put up in ethics. This is also something that you can put up in society as well, because this is something as a factor that society faces, discrimination on the basis of caste. And this is an emerging topic in the last 1 year, where a lot of higher education institutions have reported suicides by students. Again, something that can come up in ethics as well. So in order to curtail this, what IIT Bombay has done is that you should not ask the JEE ranks. Now, what happens with JEE ranks, and this is something that also happens in LBSNAA as well, that people generally ask, invariably, that what was your rank. So, for example, I met someone yesterday, and I was just walking through, and then that person thought of me as an OT and as an officer trainee. So I told him, no, I'm not an officer trainee. I'll be teaching you. So then I asked him that what was your which attempt was it? What was your rank? So the moment that he said that it was 56 rank, I could then kind of come to the conclusion that okay, this must be a general category student. So at times your caste, and then I asked about the service, he said that IAS, and then when you get into the fact that 56, that means in all probability that is a person who's from general category. Whereas someone, it kind of creates a discrimination if you ask someone and he says that 300 rank and I'm getting into IAS. Again, you kind of implicitly at times, even if you don't want it, but it shows some kind of discrimination there. So therefore, not just in these education institutions, even in other areas, you should have very strict norms of not asking ranks, not asking. You can limit it to a certain extent practically, but apart from that, there should be sensitization. So there's a lot of work that has been done in these areas for sensitization of students. So this is a topic which is very important for which you can cover in your ethics, which can come under society, because this is something that is being faced by students day in and day out in these higher education institutions. So it might sound like a very casual thing to ask, but the ramifications of it are very deep. So we need to be careful with respect to this. Then the other article, the government cuts farm airtime, Kisan Ki Baat, Kisan Wani, three days a week. Now both of these are initiatives. Kisan Ki Baat was an initiative that was launched in 2018. Kisan Wani was an initiative which was launched in 2004, and both of them basically talk about spreading information with respect to farmers to at all these All India FM Akashvani radio. So what is important here is that A, it is cutting down on this, but B, what is also important is that who is managing it, and that is something that you will be able to see on page number 4. So if you see this part of the article, here it says about this cutting of time, but the third column of this particular article, which talks about that it was launched in 2004 and half an hour radio. This is practical information for you, and Kisan Wani is very interactive, and then again you can put this up in good governance program, that how the government is reaching to farmers through this method. And then Kisan Ki Baat was launched in September 2004, and it is housed in Prasar Bharati in a farm and home unit, and it has been cut down because the government is basically seeing other ways to approach because we have new media ways. So for example, social media can be used, other medias can be used to basically run go through all of this information. So this is the other part. Then one political article that UCC unlikely to be pushed before 2024 Lok Sabha elections, because this is something that requires a very large amount of consensus, and within the BJP there have been fissures to basically see that. For example, Sushil Kumar Modi had already asked that how would be applicable to Northeast. Even within Northeast there are multiple kinds of tribes which follow multiple types of practices. In Telangana you have different kinds, in Chhattisgarh you have different kinds of tribals. So you have different sects, different cultures, and you can't make it apply to everyone at one go. So this is something that is being discussed in this particular article. We have already been following this particular. Then comes your page number 9. Let's before that we can see page number 6, Semiconductor. If you want to see that page number 6, this Semiconductor article. So something with respect to this Semiconductor mission, not just about needs but also contribution to, says Jay Shankar at Semicon. So this is something that we've been talking about, the chip war and how India needs to be updated with respect to this. All the initiatives, the Chip 4 initiative, we have already talked about what is this Chip 4 initiative that is there, and we've been trying to. We have this $10 billion mission that is there. You need to read about the semiconductor mission that is there. Why is it important to have semiconductors? Why is it so expensive? What kind of environment does it need? It needs assured electricity, very clean water, very skilled workers. So all of that is needed with respect to semiconductors, and we are trying to woo the foreign manufacturers to come and set up their shop in India. We've already had three interests. You need to know about those 3 parties which were interested in this. And apart from that, the Chip 4 initiative, and what are the different kinds of initiatives that we've joined in throughout the world. So this is something that you should be aware about. Then maybe you can read about the world's largest museum with India's story of 5,000 years. You can maybe read that. Then let's come to page number 9. So this article, the first article, Bill to amend Forest Conservation, Bill to amend Forest Conservation Act. Now you need to know this very carefully, folks, because this is an article which is on the lines of development versus environment. Something that you can cover in ethics as well. Something that you can also maybe put a reference in your essay, but very important from your environment point of view for mains. Now, what the government has done, we've already talked about this particular article, but if you don't know about the background, I would urge you to go through and Bard and ChatGPT will not give you much of information on this. Maybe you need to go through PRS website, and that will give you a good critical analysis, and then maybe give that entire information to ChatGPT, and then maybe find out a summary out of it. So that is how you should do it, because this is not still updated. Now, what is this? So the government has basically passed, the Lok Sabha has passed the Forest Conservation Act, and it has also changed the name of it for One Savrakshan, something like that, a Hindi colloquial term for this. But what this particular article says is that in 1996 there was a judgment by the Supreme Court which said that any forest or anything which resembled as a forest, the Forest Conservation Act will apply on it and by that definition, none of the and if the government wanted to intervene, the government wanted to take over certain project and have some infrastructure, it has to go through this method of passing through that this is a forest, and then we need to have certain checks. You cannot easily convert that forest land into a non-forest land. So to ease that particular process, the government has basically diluted the provisions of this particular law, if you see the very first column, in December 1996, the Supreme Court ruled that the Forest Conservation Act will apply to all land and parcels that were either recorded as forest or resembled the dictionary meaning of forest. Until then, Forest Conservation Act was only applicable to notified forest under Forest Act 1947. But what I also want you to research about is that if you wanted to convert something which was a forest land into a non-forest land, what was the procedure, and what was the procedure of passing different if you wanted to make a say a linear project or a road on a forest land, that what was the procedure and what will be the procedure now. So this blanket cover that was recorded was basically restraining development and utility related work, and that is why, especially in critical areas like Naxal area, border areas with respect to defense. So you need that infrastructure, you need those helipads, you need that air that basically runway to land planes, and basically area to have military presence. So all of that is needed, and that is why this eases that. But what it notes is that apprehension prevailed over regarding applicability of Forest Conservation Act in plantations raised on private and non-forest land. So this is an interesting area. Let's understand that as well. Now, the bill proposes that the act will be applicable only on notified forest land and land identified as forest on government records, except for forests that were already put to use before 1996. So this will be applicable to notified lands, but at the same point of time, if you see number of objections that were raised, that it will that the ministry has responded by saying that it will apply to all unclassified forest that was proposed to be notified land recorded as forest, even by local bodies recognized, will be covered in this. So the idea is that what is missing in the bill is now also being talked about in the joint committee. They're saying that it's not just the notified, even if it is proposed to be notified, we will cover it under Forest Conservation Act in pursuance of the 1996 order. But there were a number of state objections, and this is where the critical analysis part, the most important part of this particular article is the critical analysis part. And this next section is the critical analysis, which talks about the number of different states have different versions of this. Now, some states like Himachal Pradesh wants that the government should describe and government should explain that what is this fast tracking of strategic importance, what is strategic importance, what is national security, what is public utility within 100 kilometers of border. So they need to specify. Some states want you to specify what is called national importance. Give me examples. Give me examples of national security. Chhattisgarh wanted to have a special explicit mention of the kind of infrastructure that you will put, that for which we will have to divert this forest. Then Mizoram is saying that any linear project mentioned should be notified at what are these linear projects. Sikkim is saying that R is a very small area, and if you are saying 100 kilometers from the border, ours is a very small state. 100 kilometers from the border means that the entire state, and you can destroy the pristine forests that are there. So they are saying that reduce this amount to 2 kilometers. Whereas state like Arunachal Pradesh is saying that increase it by 150 kilometers because we want infrastructure in the area. So can you see the push and pulls that are there in different states, and then that is where you need to have a consensus built over this. Then the focus on plantation. So what you are also trying to do is that the proposed bill also encourage plantation in private lands to enhance carbon sink. So we have already promised something in the INDC, in the nationally intended determined contributions at the Paris Agreement, and we are saying that this will help us in terms of our access. Just a second, folks. Give me 1 second. Yes, folks. So this is the article which basically talks about, the other part of the article talks about that how plantations are being encouraged in the sector, and you can also read about a different act which is called as CAMPA, Compensatory Afforestation Act, which basically says that CAMPA Act, as well as that how forest diversion, if you're doing forest diversion in an area which is a forest land, you need to compensate by 2 times. So this is an important article that you need to study. The other is monsoon and food inflation. Now we've already talked about a number of things, that how monsoon affects our food inflation, and then how El Nino had impacted the initial part of our monsoon season, and then the revival of the monsoon in July. But at the same point of time, what is important is that while the sowing of most of the crops is now almost at the same level, there are some issues with respect to El Nino. Now, El Nino is supposed to have its major impact in August, September, October. Late basically, it's a late El Nino. Now, which will have an impact on our reservoirs and the maturing of the crops that are sowed in the Kharif season. So one, it might still have an impact on the overall output. Two, it might also have an impact on the Rabi crops. And three, it will also have an impact on the amount of reservoir waters that we have. So that is still has an implication, and then again that would have an implication on the kind of inflation that we will have in the upcoming seasons, especially the upcoming season being an election season. At the same point of time, there are certain crops in which the this thing has gone significantly down. For example, pulses, edible oil. We can easily see that their sowing has been down because of the spatial aspect of rainfall, that some areas have not received so much of rainfall as compared to another part of the country. But having said that, the prices of milk and vegetables are now softening, especially the price of milk which was in January and February, which were very high. Now the inflation in milk and milk products is coming down. So this is one part. This is something that's an ongoing thing. You should by now you should be mature enough to understand this particular article, that what is happening in terms of monsoon. Then frozen worms, maybe you can read about it, maybe you can use it somewhere. Again, an interesting article which talks about cryptobiosis. So cryptobiosis is basically when in any organism basically shuts or kind of remains dormant for hundreds and thousands of years, and then can come back to life. And that is what has been proven in this permafrost region. So you should know what is permafrost as well, and the impact of climate change on permafrost. So this is basically part of the soil which is completely frozen. You will find this in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. But what is happening due to climate change is that the Earth's average temperature is increasing, and this permafrost is now being exposed. So now the scientists have seen these worms that are there, and they've just put water on it, and they dated 40,000-50,000 years old, and they just put water on it and they became alive. And which shows that there is application of this even for humans. And most importantly, this is also application for global climate, global warming. We can also learn about adaptation in extreme environment conditions. Maybe in future, I mean, if the Earth's temperature is increasing, we can think of some kind of measures for cryptobiosis. So this is something but again a potential danger, that we are introducing animals which were completely which was basically not there in the environment. Can they have some kind of threat in terms of a pandemic as well? So that is something that we need to see. Then maybe you can read about Wajid Ali Shah, the last ruler of Awadh, and basically the last ruler in the country before the British. Then coming to editorial page, folks. Let's go to the editorial page. Riding on Hope. Riding on Hope is again an article on India-China relationship, where we have already been talking about. We've been very vociferous. The foreign minister is being very vociferous about the fact that there can not be any normalization of ties till the point we resolve our border disputes. Whereas the China's approach is that take border disputes as status quo and then we can move on. But we are stuck at that. Now it is hoped that because Xi Jinping might visit India in September, that we might be able to unknot this tie that has been tied in 2020 at the Galwan issue. So, but again, the major dispute, the central point of the dispute lies with respect to territorial claims, and this territorial claims are on both sectors. You have the eastern sector and the western sector. This is basically the western. The Galwan is the western sector, but the eastern sector as well. China claims as Arunachal Pradesh as its own dominion, and whenever someone visits China and he or she is basically residing in Arunachal Pradesh, they give them a stapled visa. and they claim that this is our area, therefore we can't give you a visa in our domestic country. So these are major standing issues with respect to India-China relationship, which needs to be resolved. Then the next article, stabilize prices. Stabilize prices is basically an article with respect to that both the European Central Bank and the Federal Reserve have increased the interest rates recently. Now, why have they increased the interest rates? Interest rates have been increased because the inflation was high. And I've explained to you earlier as well that whenever the inflation is high, what the government tries to do is increase the interest rate so that the demand in the economy reduces. If the demand in the economy reduces, then again the prices will start to cool off. And there will be some amount of unemployment, because what will happen if there is higher interest rate, then less of investment means less of production means less of labor hiring. This concept is called as Phillips curve, that there is a trade-off that lies between inflation and unemployment. If you want to reduce inflation, which means that you would have to increase the interest rate, you would have to also do with some amount of unemployment. And maybe you can read about earlier also I told you about to read about sacrifice ratio. You can read about what is the sacrifice ratio. If you want to reduce the inflation by 1%, what is the amount of GDP that you're going to lose because of it? So ideally what should happen is that any country who's raising the interest rate, their unemployment should increase. So basically the labor market should reflect that unemployment. It should show higher unemployment and the GDP should fall down. But this is something which is not been seen in US as well. And in some countries, some parts of Europe as well, that they've increased the interest rate, but yet the labor market is extremely strong, extremely resilient. The inflation no doubt has come down from say 8 to 9% to 3 to 4%, but still higher than the level that is acceptable for a developed country, which is 1 to 2%. So this is being seen in both the European sphere as well as the US, and India needs to monitor it and also needs to calibrate its policies, because in India also the inflation is now increased to 4.8%, and now we are going to see some amount of more inflation because of vegetable prices. Whatever has happened in the last 1 month or so, we might see an increase in the month of August. That when the data is released on August 12th, the inflation for July 2023 over July 2022 might be a little high. Then the other article is this data beyond surveys. Now this particular article is one of the most sensible articles in this entire saga that I've been following. Why? Because it tells you it doesn't get into that political narrative at all. It basically explains that how and what needs to be done to update our statistical understanding and getting modern data. So it talks about that we need to have data collection is expensive. Sample survey is expensive. But what we can augment it with is real-time data, this unstructured big data that we can use. And we already have systems throughout the world. We already have this UN statistical division that has come up with guidelines for using big data. If you read this, you can see this, that the UN already has some kind of measurement for big data as well. So you can use big data, you can use spatial technologies, you can use multiple methods to basically better the data collection, understand the data collection. For example, understanding Paytm's data collection. Paytm is used for a number of transactions under 200 rupees. So you can understand if that data is shared with you can understand the dynamics, which commodities are being used, which commodities are not being used. So that kind of analysis can be done. Then most importantly is the data that is being collected at the district level, at the local level. That strengthening needs to be done. Statistical strengthening at the grassroots level, because that is where if efficient and good data is being generated, then the policy making will be good. I can give you one good example of this is that there in LBSNAA there is this institution called as DIGVAC, DIGVAC. You can research about that particular institution and you can use it as a good governance example where district data is being monitored by LBSNAA for making good policies. So this is something that you can just read the full form of it, because this is the first time that I saw this particular DIGVAC. So for district, some administration and governance, some initiative. Just research about it, write it, and that will give you some kind of edge in your answer writing, just in case something is asked. And again, you can use that example. DIGVAC can be used as an example as evidence-based policy making. It can be used as a good governance initiative as well. So have a note of that particular thing. And you already have a Dholakia committee on 2020 which talks about subnational accounts is crucial. Subnational basically means at the district level data should be collected in a better manner, and we already have a project with World Bank with respect to this. And then an example and an analogy is given with respect to weather forecasting. Our weather forecasting used to be a joke, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But after the super cyclone in Odisha, we've been developing our supercomputers to basically monitor the working of all these areas, all these coastal areas, and the working of cyclones, and we've been able to monitor it fairly well. So something like that can also be done. Some kind of analogy you can put it there and then use it here as well. So this is an article that you need to study, and then it will give you good content for your mains. Then two articles. One is Smart Idea for Big Cities. Again, article written by Feroz Varun Gandhi. You can take certain pointers from this. But we have already discussed this multiple times, that we need green infrastructure, we need sponge cities. Remember that China article that was there, that China is creating these sponge cities where everything is being, all that rainwater is being utilized. You're creating vertical forest as well. So apart from that, our focus should not just be on when we talk about sewage treatment plants. Our focus should not be on just sewage based plants. Our focus should also be on reducing this concretization. So concretization is huge. You have huge population influx. Concretization has increased, and that is why the water stagnation problem is there throughout all cities. And we need this blue infrastructure as well as green infrastructure. We need to increase our wetlands. We've been encroaching on our wetlands. For example, you can easily give the example of Methi river in Bombay. And then you have a very good case study of a Bangalore river here, or a Bangalore something. You can use that particular example to basically it is about Mangalore City Corporation, and how Mangalore City Corporation has basically ramped up its efficacy of wetlands. So the first part of the article deals with this blue infrastructure, and then we need to have investment in early warning systems, Doppler radar system at a very local level to understand what is happening in the weather changes. Then we need to have the stormwater networks. We already, Delhi for example does not have a very strong this waste network that is there for stormwaters. Then apart from that, we need to have this coordination between agencies. For example, Delhi is a classic example where there are 3 agencies which are monitoring all of this. You have the MCD, you have the Delhi Jal Board, and you have another body which is basically coordinating, and the coordination failure is seen during the recent floods. Then apart from that, you have the Mangalore City Corporation example, and civil participation in the lake in Bangalore. This is another example that you can take up, where how this lake was basically revived by the BBMP by basically using help of the civic participation. So these are 2 case studies that you can put. You have to have a page on urban development with you and all of these areas, because this can be asked in your mains, and you need to have these examples. You need to have some kind of data with you. So this was the article that we were talking about. So this is the example that I quoted. You can maybe have a small note of it, and this is the example of Mangalore. So this is the article that I was talking about. Then pathways for digital inclusion. This article basically talks about the digital public infrastructure that we have been creating, which is called as IndiaStack. Now this is basically a system that we have created on the basis of which we have this CoWIN app, Aadhaar and Jandan Mobility. Then you have the UPI system. All of them are part of what is called as IndiaStack and India Open Stack. If you don't understand these words, you can maybe use your ChatGPT or Bard to better understand what this IndiaStack is. But essentially, what we have is that we have made this architecture open to everyone. Anyone can participate in this architecture. Earlier you had this Paytm, and then you had this Phone Pay. Now you have this UPI, which basically have it links to all the financial banks. It links to all the financial services that you have. So it has democratized as well as made financial inclusion much more easier. The same is with Aadhaar and Jan Dhan mobility. It has cut down on subsidies, but the next set of reforms that are awaited are those of ONDC. I want you to research about ONDC. It's a very good program of Government of India which has already been launched. It's still in the initial phases, but it will rival your Flipkart and Amazon and your Meesho. So what is this open network for digital commerce, Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, and Agri Stack, which is going to basically have this open architecture in other areas as well. And we've been showcasing this open architecture in G20 as well, and showing a number of countries that we are collaborating with. But apart from that, we need to also enable multiple methods for this. For example, voice response system for people, IVRS system for people who cannot see their mobile, so IVRS can help it. RBI has recently joined UPI 123, which is basically help a lot of people to withdraw even cash without an ATM. So this is something that can be done. And you can also basically target sectors. For example, MSME sector. You know the problem of the MSME sector, that they are not able to find funds, small ticket funds, small ticket size, collateral free, low cost loans. And then you can have some kind of a digital public infrastructure for providing loans to these MSMEs. So this is the other area that you need to read. Then coming to the economy page. Yes, coming to the economy page, very important news. Aiming for stars, how inverter ACs are catalyzing energy efficient future. Now you need to read this article for 2-3 reasons. A couple of times in the last 3-4 years, I've seen an article, I've received news, I've seen a question on a Bureau of Energy Efficiency. Either they ask what are the different kinds of alliances which are mandatory under BEE. So basically, if you see those star ratings that are there, so star ratings show something that how much efficient you have, and this ratings also change. What is very important is in this article that ratings also change over 2 years. So for example, if I buy a 5-star AC today, 2 years down the line, because the efficiency will we expect a higher efficiency, that 5-star AC will become a 4-star AC, and this is what is happening. But at the same point of time, we are also internalizing all of these equipment through the PLI scheme. So the government is basically encouraging all these AC equipment and all of these other areas to set up their shops in India and basically have better technology, efficient technology being produced in India itself. And this is the entire article which talks about that how people are how these companies have switched from the normal AC, which was just 1% of the total room AC, to 77% now having this inverter AC, which are low operational cost, higher in energy efficiency, less noise, and maximum usage security. So how we are progressing on this. And BEE labeling. Who does the BEE labeling? First of all, you should read about that, and what are the kind of products that come under BEE labeling. That has already been asked by UPSC once, and who does it, and it is done every 2 years. So very important article for you. Then the other article is insurance bill. Again, I want you to read about this particular bill, because this basically bill talks about that they will increase, they'll have composite license. Composite license will be a license for someone who wants to sell both life insurance and non-life insurance. So someone who wants to sell, say, a health insurance, life insurance, as well as someone who wants to sell a automobile insurance. So you will have a composite kind of this thing. Just a second, folks. Then apart from that, you have captive license. So captive license is something in which what you will have is, suppose I'm an insurance company and I've given too many insurances. Now I want to hedge myself. If I want to hedge myself, I can have an entity within my entity which will hedge my all the bets that I've taken. So suppose I am someone who's taking a lot of fire bets and giving fire insurance. But what if I go bankrupt? So I am making an entity within my company, and then I am trying to basically diversify my risk. So this is what is there in terms of your captive insurance. Then differential norms. So someone who's selling life insurance, the capital requirement will be different from someone who's selling just motor insurance, or say insurance for this thing, say mobiles. So this is the article and that you can read, and then read about not just this, read about the details of it in the PRS as well. Then apart from that, maybe you can read the markets and economic forecast stay up, but India Inc. profits will grow. So this is the other article that you can read. Okay, that's about it, folks. That's about it. You can read these articles, and we'll meet tomorrow morning at around 5:30. I'll let you know about the development. So whether it's 5 or 5:30, I'll let you know. But we'll definitely meet tomorrow morning, folks. Okay, chalo. I'll see you tomorrow morning, folks. Thank you for attending this class at this time. Bye.